evening. My name is Katie Ford, and I want to welcome everyone here tonight to our second Break the Stigma panel event. An event we hope becomes an annual one here in our community. This event is in honor of World Mental Health Day, which is this Sunday, October 10th. Our first event was in October of 2019, but due to the pandemic, we had to take a year off. I first want to thank each of the people sitting here to my left. Without their bravery, inspiring stories, and willingness to share them tonight, nothing would be possible. I admire each and every one of you, and I can't thank you enough for being here tonight and saying yes when I called you. You are both my friends and my heroes. Second, I want to thank Lululemon North Shore for once again providing their support to help make tonight possible. They have stood by me from day one, offering incredible support, resources, compassion, and helping me to make my vision come to life. Their kindness knows no limits. I want to give special thanks to Heidi Stern from Lululemon Market Square for all she has done as the community organizer and connector for the Market Square store. Thank you, Heidi. Lastly, but certainly not least, I want to thank my amazing husband, Tom, and my 4 beautiful children, Ellie, Harry, Maisie, and Buck, for their unwavering support, endless amounts of encouragement, and their willingness to stand by my side and listen to my stories about mental health over and over again. They've also stood by me with clenched smiles as they have had to endure my dance videos, no matter what embarrassment they may cause. They are my lifeline and they are my greatest blessings in life. I love you more than anything. In the fall of 2006, I lost my big brother Eric to suicide, and it changed me and my family forever. He lives in our hearts, and I empathize with all those who have lost loved ones or friends to mental illness. Eric's daughter, Emily, flew up from Atlanta today to be with us tonight. She, too, has had years and years of struggles with mental illness. I admire and love you, Emily. She's right here. At the outset of my illness in 2014, I began experiencing OCD with intrusive thoughts, anxiety, and ideations of self-harm. These feelings came out of the blue. It terrified me, paralyzed me for a long time, and changed my life forever. And yes, ultimately for the better. After struggling with my own mental illness, it became my mission or my calling to help break the stigma that is attached to mental illness. We all have mental health, each and every one of us in this room. Why not talk about mental health openly, like we talk about other diseases? Normalizing helps us understand. Understanding helps us heal. The idea of this event started brewing in my head in the summer of 2018. Imagine a group of people openly discussing mental illness and sharing their journeys of personal struggle with others. Wow! Wouldn't that be so awesome? So I brought the idea to Lululemon. They enthusiastically supported my idea in every way, and here we are today at our second discussion. Thank you all for your support, love, friendship, and for coming tonight. Together, we can break the stigma of mental illness. I want to introduce our first panel member, Diana Flores. She's a licensed clinical professional counselor and the founder of Forest Bluff Counseling. She has a Bachelor of Science in Molecular and Cellular Biology and a Master's in Clinical Psychology. She has over 15 years of experience working in the field of counseling, and she has experiences working with people of all ages. She started her career working in community-based agencies, working with adults suffering with suffering from diagnosis ranging from mild depression to severe schizophrenia. Diana then joined a pediatric behavioral hospital, and she worked with kids as young as 3 and as old as 21. Diana collaborated with a large hospital where she worked in 2 different emergency rooms, performing crisis-type work. Diana was hired by the hospital's Center for OCD and Anxiety, and she was put in charge of running the center's evening program and led the weekly support group. While working in that position, Diana and one of her coworkers opened a private practice in the city of Chicago. In 2014, Diana moved to the North Shore and she established her own private practice, Forest Bluff Counseling. At Forest Bluff Counseling, she utilizes cognitive behavioral therapy, evidence-based approaches to help her clients overcome their challenges and get back on track with their lives. Please allow me to introduce you to Diana Flores.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay, good. So I wanted to start with like a backstory. So my family is originally from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a little island below India. But I was born and raised in Switzerland, and I still consider French, to be my first language. And so at the age of 16, my dad's job transferred him to the United States. And he's like, okay, well, pack it up, we're moving countries. So at 16, I had to, go to high school as a junior. It was very difficult. I had to adjust to like a new culture, learn a new language. I was having my own struggle, my own anxieties, my own stressors. However, I come from a cultural background that's not very open to mental health or not very open to talking about mental health. So what I did, I just suffered in silence. I didn't say anything. I just kind of went through my panic attacks and did my own thing. Then when I went to college, I realized, hey, wait, I'm not the only one suffering in silence here. Many others of my friends, were having all kinds of symptoms, all kinds of, feeling depressed, anxious, and I decided, what, why don't I focus on this? This sounds very interesting. So at that moment in time, I decided I wanted to use my molecular bio degree and like apply it to the field of psychology and neuroscience. And so I'm fortunate today I have my, private practice, and I'm able to help a lot of people on a daily basis, overcome their own obstacles. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the practice. So normalize kind of like, what people would think of like a private practice in mental health. So my youngest clients currently, I think, is about 3 years old, and then my oldest, I think, like in their 80s, like I want to say 85-ish. So I have a range of people that come and see me. As far as backgrounds, I have, the stay-at-home mom, the doctor, the lawyer, the student, the NFL players and other celebrities. I see, all kinds of people. So what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is, what your, financial level is. Mental health, has no borders. It can affect anyone at any given moment in time. And so there is help. The other thing I wanted to say also is, since the pandemic, I've seen a lot of people come in. Like the practice is literally like, I don't have an opening until December. That's how busy it's been. But a lot of people are reaching out for the first time in their lives. They've never experienced any type of mental health before. They're having panic attacks, social anxieties, and all kinds of other symptoms. And so they don't know what to do. They don't know what's going on. But they were courageous enough to reach out and talk about it. So so it's been a good thing. So I guess my message is, it doesn't matter. Like no problem is like too small or too big. At the end of the day, if you have something going on, there is a professional out there that is trained and that can help you. It just takes a little bit of courage to open up and say something. And and we can link you. Like, for example, let's say you needed a counselor, and you can always reach out to me, and I can connect you with someone or give you a website for you to kind of research, your own providers. But if there is something going on, please say something, because there is a experienced provider out there that can help. I guess that's all I wanted to say. Yeah, thank you.
Next, Magdalene Mags Romer is a junior at Woodlands Academy in Lake Forest. Shortly after Mags lost her brother in May of 2020 to mental illness, she and her family founded Pause for Patrick, for which she is the junior board chair. Pause for Patrick connects young people with mental illness to emotional support animals and therapy dogs as they work to break the stigma of mental illness and aid those living with it. PFP uses their therapy dog program to bring the love of animals to the people who need it the most. They also seek to raise awareness of mental illness and break the stigma that still exists. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Mags Romer.
It was September 26, 2016, when I first understood the reality of mental illness. It never occurred to me that my academically inclined, athletic, animal-loving, kind, compassionate, loving brother could ever live with this invisible illness. He appeared so ordinary to everyone else because he was. But what nobody saw were the demons that lived inside of him every day. It was November 17th, 2017, when my brother was taken out of my home. To a residential facility in Montana. I was 12 years old. I did not know when I would see him next. I did not know when I would talk to him next. Throughout the course of several months, the one thing that kept him going and encouraged him to come home was his unending desire to be reunited with his dog, Susie. Months later, he returned home in June and was reunited with the one animal and person in this world that could give him that unending love and comfort. This love and comfort could only ever be brought through the love of an animal. It was August 23rd, 2019, shortly before 4 a.m., when Cece left us at the young age of 5 years. It was Patrick's first day of senior year. It was not only Cece that left us that day, but the one thing that brought my brother unending love. Shortly months later, in May of 2020, Patrick's invisible illness took him from my family and I. And this invisible illness took his life as the demons inside of him consumed him. My family is and was left heartbroken. We've been called to help others in a way that would always honor and make my brother and their son proud. We knew that we had to do something that he would want us to do. This didn't mean paying for others' therapy, which is what we originally thought, but providing mental health support through the love of animals. We created Pause for Patrick. Pause for Patrick is 3-tiered. The first part is through ESAs. Those who are seeking an ESA first fill out an application on our website, and through them they are connected with a wish granter. This wish granter then helps them every step of the way. Each case is on a case-by-case basis, depending on whether or not they need an animal, depending on the animal they need, whether they're living somewhere with no pets allowed and they need to help them get the letter through the landlord. The wish granter is with them every step of the way, making this process as easy as possible. The next tier of our program is the therapy dog program. We have several certified therapy dogs that go into all different kinds of settings, schools, we've been to proms, final weeks, individual settings, group therapies, all over. The next part of our organization is working to break the stigma. It is so incredibly important not only to support these people that need this love, but also to encourage them to seek out and reach for help. As our organization grows and advances, our hope is to work on helping others obtain service dogs. Obtaining psychiatric service dogs for those with debilitating anxiety and depression can be life-changing and life-saving. This organization has called so many to come together as a community, not only in our local community, but also in those surrounding. It's been so incredible to see everyone's love and support and commitment to break the stigma, and I can't wait to see everyone come together until the stigma is finally broken. Thank you.
Barbara Williams is a graduate of Notre Dame Business School with an MBA from Northwestern University. She spent her early career working in the account management area of the advertising industry. Barbara helped found Erica's Lighthouse 17 years ago following the loss of a dear friend's 8th grade daughter to mental illness. She was very involved in the formation of ELH's mission and expansion. She is currently co-vice president of Erica's Lighthouse. I am happy to introduce you to Barbara Williams.
Can you hear me? Oh, good, okay. About 17 years ago, I got a phone call from a very dear friend who told me that I needed to sit down because she had some horrible news. The horrible news was that she had lost her daughter, who was an 8th grader, that evening before. We then spent the next day contacting other friends, contacting teachers, to try to help the other kids within the junior high understand and get the kind of support they were going to need. We also talked about Erica, my friend's daughter. The reality was that, much like what has been said by others here, not much was known among all of us that Erica was suffering. She was a child who was outgoing, athletic, like her brother, student, yet she suffered from depression. She suffered, I think, in silence because of the stigma. I think her mother and father probably suffered in silence because of the stigma. While she was a very dear friend, I was not aware of her child's suffering. We then, about day number 2 or 3, had a discussion about what to do in lieu of flowers, which is very appropriate. And we determined that it would be appropriate to put together some kind of an organization that would help bring depression out of the dark. And we contacted friends from NAMI. We contacted schools. We contacted the head of psychiatric department at Children's Memorial. And we decided that we would put together Erica's Lighthouse, which is an organization that attempts to help adolescents and teenagers understand what depression is so that they can help themselves or they can help their friends. Once again, because it is a stigma-related and kind of a very lonely illness, one of the things that we thought that would be a great gift that we could give the world would be to normalize the understanding of what depression is. That it's just like other illnesses. If you have diabetes, it's understood there are certain things you do. If you have other illnesses, it's understood. A broken leg, you're going to have a cast or whatever. But with depression, it's not really, or in our era, was not really understood. Some of the wonderful things that could be done, whether it's counseling or just the support of friends. We found an education program. We decided that working through the schools was going to be our path, and we found an education program that we offered free of charge, 17 years ago. We have since developed our own education programs. We are in, right now, 550 schools throughout the country. We are in approximately 4 other countries. We are in the Chicago schools, we are in the North Shore schools, we are in the West suburban schools, we are in many, many states. So that's an education approach. The other thing that we did is we felt that the kids, we learned very quickly. Erica's friends wanted to be part of anything to help other kids. We put together teen clubs. We had walkathons. We've had study hall sessions prior to finals, times where kids get very stressed out. So children or teens have become part of the solution as well as the educators. The other thing we decided early on is that the parents also needed help. In many cases, you suffer in silence because of the stigma. I said it was a very sad thing that when we had our young children, we would talk to many people to decide what nursery school we would send them to. Yet, if your child is suffering from depression, you do not talk to others about therapy, about kind of accommodations in school, all the whole raft of things that are possible for a child. So we put together what we call the Parents Handbook, and there's some little inserts out in the front with the Parents Handbook. It could also be printed up. We have a website, ericaslighthouse.org, which has all sorts of information on our programs. You can print up the handbooks. These help the parents. The idea was it's kind of like having a friend that would come over and have coffee with you and give you some good advice. But this is a friend who is, you don't have to expose yourself if you don't want to, but you can learn a lot. The kids have really taken on a world of their own in terms of what they want to do in the schools. We have teen groups that have gone and talked about their own personal stories of depression, because I think the personal stories are really very, very important for youth. For youth to understand the chemistry of depression isn't necessarily as impressive as understanding the stories of depression. So I guess we are available. We are, if you felt that, any of you felt that there were schools where we are not currently in your schools and you wanted to reach out, you could go to ericaslighthouse.org. We are free, and we would love to be a part of your lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Miriam Smith is a public speaker who shares her journey as a story of hope. She is a facilitator and public speaker for NAMI, Lake County. She, along with her co-facilitators, have successfully celebrated the 4 graduating classes for the NAMI of Lake County, Spanish Family to Family, as well as first graduation for Wellness Recovery Action Plan. Her experience with searching and accepting help from resources such as NAMI began after several devastating life events, including the death of both parents within 48 hours. The level of stress from these events, as well as the day-to-day pressures, led to the downward spiral, which resulted in an extreme increase in stress levels, which eroded physical and accelerated the advance of the disease. Her road to recovery has been blessed with having positive and supportive people such as her family, close friends, spiritual mentor, and the members of the NAMI Lake County Board chapter. Miriam hopes to help others through her life experiences with grief, domestic violence, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and surviving suicide attempts, losing a niece to suicide in June 25th, 2018, as well as having a multicultural family background. It is my honor to introduce Miriam Smith.
Thank you, everyone, for being here and for listening to our stories. As Katie said, my background is multicultural. My family is from Guatemala and Jamaican. And in our culture, it is very well known that there's a saying in Spanish, lavamos nuestra ropa en la casa, which means we wash our clothes at home. We don't take it outside. The spiral began, like Katie said, with my parents passing away, my father from Alzheimer's, and my mother, she was like a vegetable. She had a feeding tube. We communicate through eye contact and through her squeezing my hand. The same day my father was passing away, I have two sisters and one brother. My oldest sister, Marcy, she had been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. She was having her mastectomy. So my sister Judy was with Marcy at the hospital, making sure that she was okay. My brother, Willie, and I were in the nursing home saying goodbye to my father. At the time, I had been in the corporate world for 25 plus years. My family took very much pride in working very hard, getting good grades. There was no room for error. There was no room for failure. And so I took much pride in achieving what I had achieved. I had a beautiful apartment overlooking the lake in Chicago. I had lived there for 25 plus years. Little did I know my life was going to change. When my sister came home that Friday, the family was gathered, and she thought that they were there to welcome her from the hospital because of her surgery. We had to tell her that Mom and Dad were gone, and that was one of the hardest things that we had to do. There's nothing in the world that prepares you to see both of your parents' caskets next to each other and having to say goodbye to both of them at the same time. I continued doing the best that I could because I didn't have time to grieve. I started having panic attacks, and I thought they were heart attacks. And I was one of the frequent flyers with 911. Earlier today, I did a training with dispatchers. I do crisis intervention training as well with police officers. Today it was dispatchers. And every time I talk to them, I apologize to them because I am one of the ones that used to call them and talk to them in Spanish, change my accent. Little did I know that they can see that it was my number every single time. But because of the shame, the guilt, the what are they going to think about me? I'm supposed to be smart. I'm supposed to be the top of my class, and this cannot happen to me. That was what made it so shameful. I wanted it to be a heart attack. When the doctor told me it was a panic attack, I said, I'm not scared of anything. I'm not afraid of anything. And she said, no, let me explain to you what a panic attack is. And she said, you have a lot of stress going on. You have severe bereavement. I didn't know what that was. All these terms that were coming at me that were unfamiliar. She continued to see me and gave me medication just to calm me down, and she said, "You need to see a psychiatrist." And I thought, no, she needs a psychiatrist, because no, I'm smart. I don't need a psychiatrist. The denial. It was very tough to accept that I had an illness. To me, it was a sentence to say that I was mentally ill. My picture of somebody mentally ill was the people that I saw walking to the L. I would see them talking to themselves. I would see them begging for money. I would see them, doing whatever. That's what mental illness meant to me. And that's why it's so important to break the stigma. I continued the journey in trying to be normal. It wasn't working. Finally, the symptoms started getting worse, and it showed up. And when it showed up, I lost my job. I had to move from the apartment. But before I left the apartment, I felt like I was worthless. I felt like I let my parents down, my family down. There was no way that this was happening to me. So feeling that way left me no other choice, and I started having suicide ideations. Because I came from a family of very high functioning people, I had to get it just right. So after the fourth attempt, the last attempt, my neighbors, they heard me screaming because I was not supposed to wake up. I lived in a high rise, and our floor was like Seinfeld. We never locked our doors. We were literally like Seinfeld. And when they came in, I was just furious that I was breathing, that I was alive. So they took me to a hospital, not the regular hospital, but a mental health facility. There was the first time that I had felt like a criminal. I was processed, and I had never in my life felt as low as I did then. I felt that I had no hope. I had lost my faith. My father was a preacher, and I had promised him that because of my beliefs, I would see them in heaven. Right before my last attempt, I said, I can't take this pain anymore. It was so deep, I just wanted the pain to go away. So when I arrived there, one of the first things they did was they gave me 3 roommates. And the 3 roommates, Dad and God had a sense of humor, because each one had to read Bible verses out loud before they went to sleep. And I thought, okay, this is not funny at all. Not only that, but there were a couple gang members there, and they heard that I was a preacher's kid. And one of them one night said, "Hey, you." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Heard you're a preacher's kid. Pray for me." And I said, "Okay." I had not prayed for myself or anyone in a very long time. But when a gang member's telling you that, you pray. And so that began that little spark of, do I have faith? Do I still have my faith? The one thing that happened to me there that changed my life was that the psychiatrist came in and he actually looked at me. I had felt like a ghost prior to that. I felt like I was just walking dead. And he looked at me and he said, "You're very sad, and you have been sad for a very long time, and I'm going to help you." And I thought, wow, he sees me. He actually looked at me. So from there, I moved out of the apartment, as I lost the apartment. I moved in with my sisters. They were going through chemo together. I was healing from this bouquet that they gave me when I left the hospital. They said, here is a bouquet, and here's PTSD and severe bereavement and anxiety, panic disorder, depression. And I was like, oh, okay, what do I do with that? So that's where NAMI came in. NAMI saved my life. With NAMI, I started learning in the classes what it meant to be depressed. What are the signs? What do I look like when I'm well? What do I look like when I'm not well? Other things that I learned were that there were other people just like me. I was not alone. And for the first time, I felt a little comfortable opening up with group therapy and then with individual therapy. I was blessed to have a trauma therapist, which I still have now, a wonderful psychiatrist, a great primary doctor, my family, who is amazing, loving, very a praying family, a faithful family, a loyal family, my nieces and all that, all of them. I call my friends and everyone who supports me my tribe. The NAMI classes started, and the president said, would you like to take a class to be a facilitator? And I thought, okay, now she's, she really doesn't understand what's happened to me. Well, I took the class, and I didn't think I could pass the class because I had problems concentrating. When the doctor spoke with me, he said, you will never be in corporate world again. I was in the legal field. They said, you will never do that again, ever. Your brain just flat out died like a computer. I couldn't remember how to take a shower. I couldn't remember a lot of things. I had to learn to use a computer again. So when I took the class and I passed it, I became a facilitator. And then I took another class, and I continued. And the classes are all free of charge. They're offered in Spanish. I facilitate the Familia Familia. Not only that, but they offered this program that was the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. And I thought, well, what is that? Well, it's a plan that you can use with anything. A daily maintenance plan, a toolbox. What do you look like when you're well? What do you do in crisis, and what do you do after crisis? And so not only did I take the class, but now I'm a facilitator for the RAP class in Spanish and now for seniors. I'm also honored to be the chair with the governing council at the Lake County Health Department, which it's mind-boggling to me that I'm doing that. I also participate in the Lake County Suicide Prevention Task Force, the Trauma Informed Task Force. There's probably a lot of things that I don't participate in. And I am just so thankful to all the services, all the stories here, because I am not alone, and I know that every single day, and I know that there are resources for me, and I know that if I continue doing what I'm doing, yes, I don't have perfect days. Yes, I lost someone to suicide. Why? We don't know. But if we can help, if I can help in any way, save one life, a police officer, a dispatcher, anywhere that I can have a voice, I am honored to speak, and I'm honored that I'm here with Katie. And I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Miriam. Excuse me. Maria Malin has lived with her family in the Lake Forest community for over 25 years. The Malins' lives changed forever when their son and brother, Stephen Jr., was struck and killed by a freight train in Westlake Forest in 2003 at the age of 11. Several years later, Maria authored a book about hope after loss of a child entitled When You Just Can't Say Goodbye, Don't. A mother's personal journey after losing a child. The proceeds of which went to establishing the Stephen Malin Jr. Memorial Scholarship at Lake Forest High School. Since 2010, 39 graduating seniors have been recognized and awarded Stephen Scholarship for demonstrating simple, everyday good character, something that is very important to the Malin family. Losing a child is every parent's worst nightmare, and Maria joins us to share the honest, raw, and life-altering choices she faced as she navigated trying to continue to raise her two now-grown daughters in the aftermath of Stephen's death. It is my pleasure to introduce Maria Malin.
Thank you, Katie. I'm pretty loud anyway, so I probably won't need it. Katie, on behalf of all of us, thank you for bringing the faces and the voices of mental health awareness in this event, just to fruition tonight. I'm just really speechless and humbled just to listen and be a learner myself. And thank you, I have a special thank you to Lululemon, because our younger daughter, Brianna, who's now 27, worked at 3 different Lulus during college, and Lululemon provided a very safe place filled with not only physical wellness, but emotional and mental wellness as a place to thrive and feel safe as her, jobs during college. And so I truly believe as a parent that Lululemon walks the walk of who they are. So thank you. Yes, it has been 18 years since Stephen died. And yes, we have a scholarship fund in his memory. And I wrote a little book about how you keep your child spiritually with you after they're physically no longer with you, and that helped fund these scholarships. And I do vocational grief coaching. I became certified in that about 10, 11 years ago. But I'm actually just here tonight as a mom who lost a child in this community. And I don't have any magic words, but I did think about what I might share for these few minutes. And I know that grief is truly a journey, because even though it's been 18 years, there is no end point. There is no destination. There is no finite, we're all better now. It just isn't. It's a journey that I continue to walk every single day. And so I thought I might just share 3 lessons that I learned sort of earlier in my loss with all of you tonight, because whether you're here as a mother who's lost a child, or a father who's lost a child, or a sibling who's lost a sibling, we all walk a similar journey. The first lesson that really I feel is very important, and was very important in the early stages of after Stephen died, was to not bottle up your feelings and emotions from the rest of the family, and also for those around you. It will become the most poisonous toxin that you ever bottled, just trying to keep it all in and keep it all together all the time. I had a lot of well-meaning, very close family members and loved ones tell me early on, just days after Stephen died, don't cry so much in front of the kids. You're scaring the girls. Be strong, Maria. You're a very strong woman. Be strong. And you know, he's in a better place. I got a lot of pats on the arm telling me that Stephen was in a better place. And a better place to me, as a very strong-minded Italian mother, was up in his bedroom, probably not doing his homework, probably watching ESPN after midnight, or otherwise horsing around with his friends. That was a better place to me than to have him die at the age of 11. But I listened to everybody, and I kept a lot of things in instead of releasing them in healthy ways. And so where my emotional wellness was just at an all-time low and not being just released in any way, my physical health deteriorated very quickly. My hair started falling out. My stomach started bleeding. I had continued health issues that I had never faced before. And I truly believe that part of that was due to the enormity of trying to be this stoic parent who kind of keeps it all together for everybody else. So I would say, don't bottle it. I had an experience in the hospital after I had a particularly painful surgery that, and I don't do well with painkillers, so I was only on extra strength, Motrin that night in the hospital, but a nurse came to visit me, and she helped me. And she said to me, do you know why all of the problems you're having health-wise are in this area? And I said, no. And she said, it's because your heart is broken. And the area for a mother around her heart suffers the most. And no one had ever said that to me. And I was awake the whole night. And the next morning, I shared the experience with another nurse of Angela, who came to visit me the night before. And she said, we don't have a nurse in this department named Angela. I truly believe in signs from up above, and I truly believed that that was a turning point for me to be okay, to let the kids really see me at my most vulnerable. And whether you're a mom or a dad, and dads, are always supposed to be even stronger than moms and more stoic, it's important for everybody to see each other for what they're truly going through. Second, I will say that what really helped our two, now grown daughters, Francesca and Brianna, was to keep the door of communication wide open and to keep the open-ended questions going out freely to them. So I was a typical mom before Stephen died where, the kids would get in the car. How was school? Fine. How was your math test? Good. I got as many one-word answers as any parent. But I decided early on that if I was really going to be in touch with how the girls were doing, I would have to ask very open-ended questions. And so I made a practice of that. And it really helped our overall communication through our grief journey. And I often said to them, I can't imagine what it feels like to lose a sibling. I'm so sorry, and I want to be a good listener for you. But I would often ask them, how do you feel about that? Or what are your thoughts on this? Or what happened when you went to your first day of school today? Tell me about it. And that tell me about it really helped our other children. And I'm so lucky and blessed. Steve and I both are very lucky that they're just tremendous communicators as grown women now. And that continued, that door remained open, and they knew that we weren't going to try to distract them away from their brother's death or spoil them or any which way other than be there for them as active listeners. And it's so true that nothing makes it better. But when our kids now tell us that that did make a difference, it definitely was a lesson that I truly value on my journey. And then third is that to be authentic and true to what's going on the inside of you, to be on the outside as well. To be true to what really is happening. You know, I went through, Stephen died in our community. It was, you know, right at the train station, and our community held our family up like we could never repay for. But with that, everywhere we went was very visible. You know, oh, Maria came to the school event today. She must be having a better day. Or, Maria, you showered. You must be doing better today. Well, I eventually had to shower, you know. And everything we did felt like either we were doing better or must be doing worse. So I didn't know what to do with that, because it could be a Tuesday at noon, or it could be the anniversary of your child's death. And I dare say that you might be as hysterically screaming as you would one over the other. It doesn't matter what day it is. It doesn't matter if you have makeup on or not. And it doesn't matter who you're with. Just be true to what you can and cannot do. Be true to what you say yes and what you just have to say no to protect your own healing, to protect your family. And I wish I had done that more in the beginning, but I finally got the courage to do it and not feel guilty about it. And it was a true gift and a lesson in my own grief journey. I am just, again, honored to be part of this night. I know we're all staying to continue our conversations with all of you. And if anybody wants to share their journey or their thoughts or anything with me, I truly do welcome them, and I thank you.
The broken heart that's a beautiful, beautiful, thank you for sharing. Sophie Huddleston is 17 years old and a senior at Lake Forest High School. Since Sophie was a young child, she struggled with depression, anxiety, and OCD. At the end of middle school and start of high school, however, things became very difficult for Sophie, and it was clear that she needed an intervention. Her mental illness left her drained, hopeless, apathetic, and despondent. She became antisocial, unmotivated, and felt worthless and alone. She began to see a therapist and a psychiatrist. Over the past few years, she has made what seems like countless efforts to lessen her symptoms. Sophie tried cognitive therapy, group therapy, exposure therapy, acupuncture, wilderness therapy, various treatment programs, and every medication under the sun. While some of these things have been more helpful than others, where she really found success in lessening her symptoms was in the realization that mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. With time, Sophie began to realize that she was not alone. She started to share her stories and was met with an outpour of love and support from people near and far. Today, she coexists comfortably with her internal demons and runs a clothing company with her friend called Offbeat Apparel. It's very cool. You must check it out. To bring awareness. All profits from selling clothing are donated to various mental health causes. It is with a gleeful heart that I introduce my friend and mental health advocate, Sophie Huddleston.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Thank you for the introduction. I know I don't have the word doctor in front of my name, or I haven't written a book, but I do have one thing that I've accomplished, and that's actually being a senior in high school, which I think is a pretty big deal. And so what that means is that right now I am undergoing the dreaded college application process. And I'm sure your next question is, well, what do you want to study? And I have two answers to that. Number one is obviously psychology, but I plan to double major. And the next thing, don't laugh, Latin. I swear it's important. And here's why. There's a phrase that I've learned in Latin, ad astra per aspera. And in English, this translates to the stars through adversity. Now I know what you're thinking. This is like Forrest, there's no such thing as adversity. And there was a time in my life where I would agree with you too. But unfortunately, when I first encountered the demons that are mental illness, it was nothing Range Rovers and Vineyard Vines could fix. I've struggled with mental illness a great deal in hindsight, and it's looked a number of ways for me as I've grown up. At 3 years old, my parents had to receive special permission from my preschool teachers to allow me to wear a baseball hat in the classroom so I could feel sheltered. At age 5, I cried in the kindergarten bathroom while my class learned to count because I had an unshakable fear of saying certain numbers aloud. At age 7, my first grade teacher printed slips of paper for me to give her when I needed something, since I was too afraid to speak to her. At age 8, I had to be comforted by my parents each night because my fear of terrorists invading my home was unshakable. At age 9, I had a private meeting with the principal of my elementary school, where she showed me all of the school's safety measures so I could feel comfortable being at school without wearing a bulletproof vest. These instances all stemmed from my anxiety that caused distortions beyond belief. This continued for quite some time and eventually led to OCD and depression. Age 12 consisted of crying myself to sleep, feeling worthless. Age 13 was full of self-harm and hating everyone. Age 14 was when I really started to get help from my parents. Up until then, I'd only seen the school social worker. My mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, and OCD left me drained, hopeless, apathetic, and despondent. It was at this point that my family realized I needed extra support. From then on, I tried what seems like an endless assortment of treatments. While some of these things have been more helpful than others, where I've really found success in lessening my symptoms has been in my realization that mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. When I was first diagnosed, I felt disgusted. I was afraid to talk to anyone about the way I felt, and I felt like a burden to those around me. But with time, I began to realize that I was not alone. I became more and more confident in sharing my experiences and advocating for mental health awareness. I'm now at a place in my journey where I've had many highs and lows, and I'm perfectly prepared for anything. It was all crucial to developing the warrior I am today. So my main advice for you is to shoot for the stars. I've been taught in therapy that when you are on an airplane, if there is an emergency, you need to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. This is true for helping those who are struggling. If people help themselves first and take care of their own mental health, they will be a more viable lifeline for others. The stigma surrounding mental health needs to be broken, but those of us sitting on this panel can't do it without your help. Check in with yourself, check in with those around you. Learn the warning signs of mental illness. Learn how to be a listener. Check on your children, your parents, your coworker, the mailman, the barista at Starbucks, I don't care who. Just check on someone. And while I wouldn't wish anything that I've been through on my worst enemies, and I would never want to go through it again, I don't wish it away, and I never will. My mental illnesses are permanent and a part of me forever. But they aren't the kind of permanent like a frustrating spaghetti stain on a favorite shirt. They're permanent like the stars. Not always seen, but always there. I'm content having them here for my journey now that I've learned they are just pushing me closer to the stars. At age 17, I've realized the things I've been through are only road signs on my path to the stars. Each obstacle along the way has made me more compassionate and humble, stronger and grateful, and appreciative and present. Thank you.
Paige Douglas grew up in Lake Forest. She recently started a teaching job in downtown Chicago at Old St. Mary's School. Prior to this, Paige was pursuing a PhD at the University of Wisconsin-Madison after having received her master's degree in Edinburgh, Scotland. Her area of research has been physical activity in cancer epidemiology, essentially looking at the benefits of exercise for cancer patients and survivors. Paige is grateful to be in the workforce and teaching health science and physical education. Paige has a passion for health and fitness. She is an avid marathon and ultra-marathon runner and loves strength training. She has been a warrior against mental illness for roughly 15 years and is so happy to be here today to tell her story. Paige has suffered from depression, anxiety, and OCD for roughly 15 years, and PTSD and suicidal thoughts from sexual abuse for roughly a year and a half. I am privileged to introduce to you Paige Douglas.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Okay. My name is Paige Douglas. I am currently a teacher at Old St. Mary's School in Chicago, but I grew up here in Lake Forest. Mental health is a cause that I am extremely passionate about. As a mental health warrior of nearly 14 years, I am beyond honored to be here tonight to share my story. I have battled depression, anxiety, OCD, an eating disorder, exercise addiction, and most recently, suicidal ideations and PTSD from sexual assault. I started experiencing depression during my sophomore and junior years of high school. My mom was battling breast cancer, and I was coping with it through alcohol and drugs. The friends I hung out with pressured me to drink through the pain. This led to a plethora of bad decisions, including drinking and driving, stealing, doing drugs, you name it. I would drink every day in school out of a water bottle filled with vodka. And I would even do drugs in the school library. My world felt out of control, and the best way I knew how to handle it was to numb the pain through an addiction of sorts. What initially started out as an addiction of being drunk or high in my junior year of high school eventually turned into an addiction of exercise and controlling what I ate by the time senior year came around. I suffered from an eating disorder throughout my college years, and after a major health scare in 2017, where I almost died and I was just extremely sick, reality hit me that I needed to seek treatment and get help. I went to Rogers Behavioral Center for a few months getting treatment for my eating disorder and OCD behaviors. Seeking help was the greatest thing for me. I took the semester off of school and spent all of 2018 focusing on getting myself healthy again. I am sure if you know me, Paige Douglas, one of the things that pops into your mind is athlete or runner. I have run just over a dozen marathons and 7 ultramarathons, my longest run being 73 miles last November. In your eyes, you may view this as an amazing accomplishment, or may even view me as an inspiration or role model. However, what you don't know is how much running has controlled my life, to a point where it became an unhealthy obsession that played detrimental roles on my mental health, to the point where I actually lost my love for the sport for a while and forced myself out the door every single day because I felt like I needed to prove my runner identity. My goal to become faster and stronger grew into a challenge of seeing how many miles I could run in a week or how few rest days I could take and stay injury-free. The love of the sport turned into a competition, always striving for more. I was never satisfied. This was very toxic for me and my mental health. As I used running to escape from the emotions I was feeling, it makes sense that I would run 6 marathons and 7 ultramarathons just last year, the year I struggled the most with my mental health. I was struggling with over-exercising as a way to cope. I felt so out of tune with my body and just felt so off. I thought the only thing that could make it better was to run. There was something about increasing my heart rate that made me feel alive. In fact, it was the only time I actually felt alive. It was the only time that I did not feel numb. March of 2020, just a few weeks before the world shut down, I was sexually assaulted by the head track coach of UW-Madison, where I went to grad school at the time. Throughout everything that I had learned through therapy and the importance of asking for help, for some reason, this experience shook me so deep to my core that I did not tell a soul what happened for over three months. It took me 3 months to tell my family about what happened. 4 months to go to therapy for the severe PTSD I was suffering from. 5 months to take a walk or run outside alone again. 8 months to be able to go back to my condo and sleep in my bed. 9 months to let another man touch or even hug me. 16 months to go to an event with a large amount of people and not have a panic attack. This experience took everything from me for a brief period of time. I cannot believe that I am actually up here today sharing this story with you all, when just last summer I was contemplating taking my own life. I spent endless days in bed staring at my ceiling, wishing my life would just end. I would recklessly run through traffic, hoping to get hit by a car. I felt like I had nothing left to live for. I lost my relationship with my body. I lost trust in others. I lost a lot of friends. I lost my boyfriend. It was very hard for me to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I am so grateful for my family and friends that stuck with me through my battles, and for my therapist that challenged my anxieties and helped me overcome many of my triggers. If I didn't seek help, I am not sure I would still be here today. 1.5 years on, I am living acutely with the consequences of what one person did to me. I won't forget the pain he caused me, but I know that one day it won't define me. As much as I hate some of the places and experiences my mental health has dragged me down to, I'm grateful it has put me in the valleys only to show me that there are peaks. It has dragged me through the dark, but it has also reminded me that there is light. My pain has given me perspective, and my hurt has forced me to have hope and to have faith. Faith in myself, faith in others, faith that it can get better. And it does get better. It gets way better. It has taught me that we can speak up, speak out, and fight against ignorance and break the stigma that surrounds mental health and suicide. The world I believe in is one where embracing your light doesn't mean ignoring your dark. The world I believe in is one where we are measured by our ability to overcome adversities, not avoid them. We are people and we struggle. We suffer and we cry. And if you think that true strength means never showing any weakness, you're wrong, because it's the opposite. We're not perfect, and that's okay. I don't know what the solution is, but I know that part of it has to start with me, and it also has to start with you. We all know what it is to hurt. We all know what it is to have pain in our heart, and we all know how important it is to heal. Right now, mental illness is like society's deep cut that we're content to put a Band-Aid over and pretend it's not there. But it is there. Mental illness is not a choice, but stigma and ignorance are. So, we need to stop the ignorance, stop the stigma, and stop the silence. Take a look at the truth and start talking. Because the only way we are going to beat a problem that people are battling alone is by standing strong together. To the ones we have lost, I promise to never stop shining a light on the darkness that stole you from us. To my friends I have lost from suicide, Brendan, Fareed, Michael, Eddie, and Hannah, I promise to never stop fighting and to live for you. To everyone here today, I leave you with this message. Bring love wherever you go. Shine light wherever it is dark. And remember, please be kind wherever you are. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Paige. I've got to collect myself up here for a minute. Dr. Elizabeth Lombardo is the authority on how to crush your inner critic so that you can live your life with purpose, fulfillment, and true success, both personally and professionally. Dr. E has personally helped numerous high-profile individuals achieve success and is considered Shaquille O'Neal's, yes, that's right, head coach for happiness through her best-selling books, online interactive training, keynote speeches, and numerous other avenues. She shares her wisdom and experience helping others to achieve great results. Having worked with many Fortune 500 companies, including the likes of Coca-Cola, Deloitte, UBS, Westinghouse, Dr. E is considered one of America's most trusted celebrity psychologists. As a regular contributor to the Today Show, Good Morning America, Dr. Oz, Forbes, and the New York Times, Dr. E is passionate about helping people optimize their lives through proven methods. Dr. E lives in Lake Forest with her husband and 2 daughters. It is an honor to introduce my friend, Dr. Elizabeth Lombardo.
Show of hands, how many of you ever experienced stress? Yeah, I thought so. So in psychology, we differentiate stress of eustress, which is happy stress. I'm excited about the prom, I'm going on vacation, and distress. And distress is pretty much any emotion you don't want. It includes things like fear, anxiety, anger, worry, guilt, shame, helplessness, hopelessness, worthlessness, overwhelm. Yeah. And it's on a scale from 0, no distress at all, to 10, which is the most distressed you could be. So if you all would be brave enough, I want you to think about, over the past week, what has been your average level of distress? And if you would just put up a number with your hands so we can kind of see where people have been. Thank you. We have an 8, we have a lot of 8s, 6, 10s, we have 10s, we have 8s, we have very high numbers here. Thank you very much for sharing. And I ask this because we've all heard, or perhaps you've heard of the football red zone, right? That's where you want to get into when you're playing football. But there's something called a psychological red zone. And the psychological red zone happens when we get at a 7 out of 10 or higher. A 7 out of 10 or higher. And what happens when we're in the red zone is we actually think differently. We think differently. We interact differently. So I have a quick pop quiz for you. Perfectionists, don't worry, this does not actually count, but just see if you can relate to any of these. Have you ever said or done something that you later regretted? I had a lot of these opportunities during the pandemic, I'll tell you that. Have you ever avoided or procrastinated on a really important project? Yeah, we got 2 hands, yes, thank you very much. Have you ever felt so overwhelmed that you just couldn't focus or concentrate? I think we all can relate to these, right? And if so, you are in the red zone. you were in the red zone. And shameless plug for my new book, Get Out of the Red Zone, Transform Your Stress to Optimize True Success. But the reason why I wrote it is because my goal is really to make this a regular conversation that we all have, as Katie so eloquently pointed out, we all have mental well-being. We all have mental health. We all have a body, we have physical health. We all have a brain, right? Sometimes mine doesn't function as well. But we all have a brain, and so we all have mental health. And understanding that it's such a continuum. I'm absolutely honored, and I know you all are too, to be able to hear the stories that you all have shared with us. It is just, I'm trying not to cry because I did WGN this morning and I still have my fake lashes on, and I know that they would be like coming down to my chin. But it's incredible to hear the stories and the journeys and the resilience. And what I really want to convey to you all is mental well-being, it's on a continuum. And sometimes we can be in a good place, and sometimes we can be in a not good place. But as you so eloquently pointed out, life is up and down, right? There are peaks and valleys. And when we're in a valley, we need to remember that that peak will come. Now, when you're in the red zone, when I'm in the red zone, when any of us are in the red zone, our brain actually functions differently. So instead of thinking rationally, using that beautiful frontal lobe, our limbic system actually hijacks our rational thinking. Limbic system is the fight or flight. It's the survival mechanism. And in prehistoric times, this made sense, right? If your prehistoric ancestor heard a little rustling in the bushes and thought, nah, it's probably nothing, they might not live to tell that story, right? So our brain goes right into focusing on the negative. And that's what happens to us when we get into the red zone. We focus on what's wrong. When we get into the red zone, that's when that inner critic, that voice inside of your head that says horribly mean things to you, you're no good, you're worthless, you're never going to amount to anything, you're a disappointment to your loved ones, that's when that inner critic gets way turned up. And so what I hope, as I am sharing this message of Red Zone, is that we can just have conversations about, hey, where are you today? How are you feeling? And if you are in that red zone, or someone else is in that red zone, that we take the steps to help you or someone else get out of the red zone. I was giving a keynote the other day. Of course, it was online. And a week later, I had the pleasure of getting to meet with a small group of individuals who had been at that keynote. And I was talking about the red zone. And one of the women shared with me that going forward, every single meeting that she has, she asks the other person or the other people, where are you right now from 0 to 10? She said, I had a really important meeting with my analyst. She was a financial person, and he was at an 8. And she said, I canceled our meeting. I rescheduled our meeting. I sent him a gift certificate to Grubhub. We had the meeting the next day, and it was great. Our mind cannot focus when we're in the red zone. It can't focus on anything productive. It focuses on what's wrong, and if we let that take over, that's when those emotions can become even more powerful. And there are people who spend a lot of time in the red zone. And I think, as you know, in listening to all the stories tonight, I think there are a couple of really important points that I just wanted to highlight. One, everyone deals with mental wellness issues, whether it's a psychiatrically diagnosable illness or not. We all struggle at some times. Mental illness and mental health is silent. It's silent, right? All those people who you're looking on Instagram and thinking, oh, they have the perfect life, a lot of times those are the ones who are suffering the most. So just remember, as you're going through your journey, don't wait until you're at a 10 out of 10, 24/7. Right? Let's start to address our mental well-being now. And also remember that the term normal was used earlier, and I wrote it down. 80%, and I work a lot with teens, 80% of teens report struggling with high levels of stress on a daily basis. 67% of teens pretend to feel better than they really are because they don't want to worry other people. And 70% of teens wish that schools taught more about mental well-being and coping skills. This is the normal. And so I just encourage you all to check in with yourselves, to check in with other people, and to realize that there really is so much that can be done to optimize your mental well-being. Thank you very much.
Thank you all from the bottom of my heart in participating and being panel members. I have been so touched and taken away so much from each of you. So thank you so much.